So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you are. I hope you guys are all doing very, very well. Today is Sunday, the 5th of January, 2025, and it's a brand new year, and I hope you guys have the best 2025 ever, and I want to help you guys have the best 2025 ever. So I've gathered you here today to talk to you about some of the most exciting, emerging, and independent designers that I think we should focus on for the year ahead. So fashion's always really been a form of self-expression. It's been a way to tell people who you are and a little bit more about you without actually having to say anything. And what I noticed in 2024 while scrolling through social media and shopping online is that it's getting harder and harder to actually stand out. Everyone seems to be wearing the same looks, the same ideas, the same outfits. Department stores are pretty much dying. When you go into stores these days, the merchandising is really, really sad. You're pretty much just gonna get the shoes that these big luxury brands put out, and they price super high and the quality super low. And not only that, but the styles are also very ugly as well. So the actual merchandise that you see in the stores now are not interesting at all. Ready to wear is pretty sad. So when you go into stores, you're pretty much just seeing logos, you're seeing graphics, and they're really just trying to push the low cost, low production, low quality goods at a high price to the mass market so they can make as much money as possible. I know, depressing. Then you have the rise of all these cookie cutter aesthetics and styles like Gorpcore, Office Siren, what are the kids saying these days? Bloatcore. The reason why so much of this happens is because fashion is controlled for the most part by big players, and this leaves less and less room for individuality. However, there is a bright side, and this is where emerging and independent brands and designers come into play. They're really the antidote for the sameness that we see in fashion right now. So in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is highlighting some of the most exciting emerging brands and designers for us to watch out for in 2025.
No gatekeeping.
The reason why I'm always championing these independent brands, these emerging designers, is because these brands don't have the vision for this sort of mass market appeal, and they don't really have to answer to these big board of directors that are constantly pushing for profit margins and sales and a year-on-year growth and a year-on-year revenue. A lot of these brands come from diverse backgrounds and they bring new cultural perspectives. By supporting these brands, you encourage diversity not just in design and fashion, but in the stories and identities that are present and represented in the industry as a whole. Shopping smaller is really an escape from the mainstream. You have limited runs, you have custom designs, you have artisanal craftsmanship. And because of this, what tends to happen is you become the tastemaker rather than the trend follower. So knowing these brands and doing the work to find them gives you the tools to actually go ahead and build a wardrobe that reflects your style and your personality in the truest form. So I definitely debated bringing this topic up, but if you are not living under a rock and you've seen the headlines recently about the Birkin Walmart dupe fiasco, one thing that I find really interesting about this whole situation, and I always reference my threads because this is kind of where a lot of these different fashion ideas and concepts come up. So anyways, there was a thread that I saw recently that was talking about the Walmart Birkin dupe situation. And the reason why it's relevant to this conversation is because all of us can go out there and we can buy fakes, we can buy dupes very easily, we can buy knockoffs of the Prada bags, of the Chanel bags, of the Hermes bags. We can buy knockoffs of a lot of these different brands products, Loewe bags. It's not difficult to find those dupes. But what happens when you actually go ahead and buy those dupes is that you're undercutting and you're undermining craft design as a whole. So there's people who spend years and years of their lives. You've got people who go to university and study for years, spend time building their brand, spend time designing a product and sort of building this universe. And what happens when you, especially in the case of Hermes, because we know Hermes as one of those luxury brands that prioritizes quality and craft. They're one of those brands that have the highest level of design and of product quality. So what happens when we go ahead and buy these dupes is we undermine the artisans who work in those factories to produce those products. We undermine the art of learning a trade. So that's kind of why I think it's really important for us to actually make sure that we're not kind of buying into this idea that we need to get fakes to stick it to the luxury industry. Because I mean, yes, there are a lot of brands that say they're luxury and they kind of give you shit, and it's important for us to know who those brands are and to take note of them. At the same time, we have to remember that there are brands who do things the right way, and there are brands and designers who actually do care about the product that they're giving you. So with that being said, we're going to dive into some of these brands that I feel we should be focusing on and we should be giving more attention to in 2025. Brands that I feel are really kind of like innovating products, brands who care about design, brands who care about quality, and brands who are kind of bringing something new to at the moment, and just brands who I'm generally kind of like, and designers who I'm generally interested in right now. So let's jump straight into it. So the first brand that we have on the list is Unvain Studios. So Unvain Studios is an independent brand from Germany, founded in 2020 by Robert Fredericks. What I really like about this brand is they have a lot of these kind of like, it's a very sort of like Berlin kind of like edgy brand, you know, obviously a lot of black. But what I find really interesting about this brand is that they have these unique pieces that elevate your style, but they have them at a very accessible and affordable price point. I was actually really interested in, I think it was the wide leg panel pants. I thought these were really cool because this kind of is really, it's 179 euros for these trousers. It's an interesting design. You know, you'll see a lot of brands on Essence selling these, like not this exact style of trouser, but something that has like a similar sort of like maybe like silhouette, and it would be maybe like double, triple the price that we see right here. I feel like pieces like this are really, really cool. They have a lot of other products there as well, like this waxed fit jacket, which is really nice. It's 100% cotton. It has sort of like a heavyweight fabric. And yeah, I feel like Unvain Studios are just like a really, really cool brand to keep your eye on for the future. If you're looking for like basics, t-shirts, tank tops, you know, cool sort of statement pieces to add to your wardrobe, I feel like they're a really, really cool brand to go for. And again, they're an independent brand based in Berlin. So yeah, if you're looking to support these kind of like emerging independent brands, then I feel like Unvain is one of those really cool options to go for. Next on the list is this really interesting accessories designer. His name is Philemon. He specializes in these really interesting sort of upcycled cowhide bags. So they essentially feature these handmade bags produced from pre-owned cowhide rugs. Each bag has its own unique and individual touch because of the materials used and because of the way it's made. So you're essentially getting, in a sense, you're getting a one of one. Now, I've seen these bags before, this sort of design on social media, you know, on TikTok or on Instagram. What I find in the difference between this bag and the ones that I've seen online is that when you actually go to the website, you'll see that when you look at the materials and when you look at the production, a lot of the materials, you know, you were not going to have 100% leather, or you're going to have sort of like, you know, a low quality sort of leather substitute. But as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, one of the advantages to shopping from emerging independent designers and brands is you're going to get essentially some of the highest level of quality there is. And this is definitely the case with these bags here from Philemon. I haven't been able to pick one up, unfortunately, because every time there's a drop, I always miss out and everything is sold out, so I'm too slow. I would definitely recommend you check out more of Philemon's work. He graduated from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp, which is one of the most renowned design schools in the world. And if I'm not mistaken, he's been making these sort of accessories and bags since he was 12 years old. So you're definitely gonna get top level quality and design from his brand. Next on the list, and one of my personal favorites, is a brand called V Sav by my friend Vilta. So V is a Lithuanian designer who explores the intersection between fashion, farm life, and food. We actually met, I think it was a year ago or a year and a half ago at Paris Fashion Week at the Hodakova show, which was my first time at a Hodakova show. And interestingly enough, V actually was, I think, interning for Hodakova at the time. And what's really interesting is when I look at her designs, you can really see some of the design elements that she took from her time working at Hodakova, and you can see that kind of woven into her own design aesthetic and her own design process, which I think is really, really interesting. For anyone who doesn't know, Hodakova is one of the I guess should probably be on this list actually. I guess we're gonna do a little bit of a detour. So Hodakova is a brand based in Stockholm, Sweden, and it was founded in 2021 by Ellen Hodakova Larsson. The brand has this utilitarian culture, and it focuses on converting and upcycling old materials and making them into these luxurious goods. So I first discovered Hodakova at Fashion Week when I met V, and I was so lucky to be able to see the collection and the show from the brand at the time. This show was actually really interesting because it was presented at the Theater of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, which is so different from your typical runway that you see from most of the brands that present and show during Paris Fashion Week. The collection was an exploration of self-expression in a world that's constantly changing. The collection was really cool, and it featured clothes that were made from unconventional materials like belts, spoons, dried flowers from the Swedish countryside, and some, I think, dresses that featured over 2,000 pens, which is just crazy. She reimagined these everyday objects and kind of questioned how people go about finding their unique identity in a society that's so digitally obsessed. The whole sort of focus of the show was to challenge these societal norms, especially in office wear, and it aimed to sort of stand out in a world of conformity. A lot of the brand's designs transformed office wear into these really unconventional pieces. You know, she used like jacket linings as dresses, and there was one look where she merged multiple pants to create like a skirt, which was just so interesting, and I loved it. A little bit of a tangent there, but I would definitely recommend you guys to go check out Hodakova. It's a notable mention in this video. But back to V. As I was mentioning earlier, you can see a lot of the influences that she got from her time at the brand within her own collections. But what I find so interesting about her brand, V's brand, is that she still incorporates and infuses her own personal experiences and her own culture and life into her products as well. And we see that in things like the farm bag, we see it in the skirt belt as well. We also see it in these really, really interesting stapled ballerinas, which I absolutely love. And also in the farmer's keychain, which I actually have myself, and I'm going to show you guys right now. So this is the farmer keychain. This keychain is 100% upcycled cow leather, and it's produced with these repurposed belt loops. Each keychain has a wooden handcrafted charm, and it's made by Lithuanian local artisans. One thing that I love is that she regularly collaborates with local Lithuanian artisans, tailors, and cobblers to produce a lot of her pieces. So definitely check out this brand V-Sav and keep an eye out for what's to come in 2025. So another brand that I'm really excited about in 2025 is this brand called California Arts. So California Arts is founded by Gary, who I think is a Canadian native, and the brand is currently based, of course, in California, as is the name. One thing that's really interesting that kind of notes to my initial points when I first started the video is when you look at California Arts' website, you can go ahead and see their philosophy, and they mention that a lot of menswear, a lot of design in menswear is either produced by these mall brands, like I said, the brands that you'll typically find in department stores now, or by luxury fashion houses at these crazy prices. So California Arts, on the other hand, focus on producing these luxury pieces, but at affordable and accessible prices. What I really love about the brand is that they have this really sort of relaxed and effortless aesthetic and design ethos. A lot of the clothing really has this, for me, this old Calvin Klein, DKNY, American sportswear that we used to see in the mid-90s that we don't really see so much anymore. And I feel like they do this so coherently. Some of the pieces that really stick out to me are the leather jackets, which are absolutely stunning. I'm actually still looking for like a really statement leather jacket in my wardrobe, and I love the leather jackets that they have. The jackets feature this kind of like really big oversized lapel, which is reminiscent of the sort of like Air Force, this military sort of Air Force kind of vibe. And they use 100% genuine leather. Another thing that caught my eye is these trousers. And I mentioned in my last video, which was my fall winter wish list for 2025, I mentioned that I'm looking for a really, really nice pair of pinstripe trousers. And I initially found these trousers from Studio Nicholson on Essence, but they were around 500 euros. However, I found these pinstripe trousers here on the California Arts website, and they've got what looks like a similar pair of these trousers for around 300 euros. And yeah, I definitely think I'm gonna pick one of these trousers up very, very, very soon, because I love the tailoring and I love how the trouser sort of sits. It's not too wide and it's not too slim. It just really looks like, you know, perfect tailoring. Of course, I won't know until I actually, you know, try it on myself, but how it's shot on the model is very, very convincing. So next on the list, we have a Dutch brand called, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Camiel Fortgens, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, which is a brand based in Amsterdam. What really caught my eye initially with this brand was this sort of deconstructed and sort of unfinished look that they have in a lot of the pieces. So I feel like there's definitely a trend in the brands that I gravitate towards as someone who's interested in fashion. I'm always really looking at those brands that focus on upcycling, that focus on deconstruction. And the reason why is because, you know, I used to be a person that was really focused on this idea of perfectionism many, many years ago. I didn't realize it at the time, but after I had, you know, done the work to really understand more about myself and kind of grow, I realized that this idea of perfectionism was actually more harmful to me than it was good. What I would do is that I would put these sort of unneeded expectations on myself, and I would take these expectations from others and I would carry it myself, and I would put a lot of pressure on myself, and I would demand this level of perfection from my work that just wasn't conducive to my own development as, you know, as a person. So of course, after kind of you know, therapy and learning and educating myself, I got to a point where I realized that this element of perfectionism is so toxic for me and toxic for my mental health. And I feel like fashion really was one of those things that kind of highlighted that to me even more. This seems like a tangent, but stay with me. I feel like fashion really helped me understand this toxic mentality that I had towards perfectionism. What made me realize that was seeing this sort of translated through clothing. So the best way to sort of describe this philosophy of deconstruction is this intentional unfinished appearance that showcases raw edges, asymmetrical designs, and distressed textiles and fabrics. So I think almost every fashion person has this phase of exploring and learning about the work of Alexander McQueen, and that's the first time I was really exposed to deconstruction. I feel like he's one of the most notable designers to use this technique and philosophy in his clothing and in his collections. We also see this element of deconstruction shown through other designers like Ray Kawakubo for Comme des Garçons. We also saw this a lot from Martin Margiela. And one of the most obvious features of deconstructed garments is their frequent use of these sort of uneven or asymmetrical designs. What this does is it gives you a sense of unpredictability and uniqueness. So this kind of juxtaposition between deconstructed garments versus traditional symmetry in fashion evoked this sort of almost like rebelliousness in me. So yeah, I guess why a lot of the brands that I'm really gravitating towards as I continue to develop my wardrobe feature this element of deconstruction and of upcycling. So I guess this is the first time I'm really sort of actualizing it and verbalizing this link between my love for deconstruction and upcycling in fashion and why I gravitate towards these sort of brands like Le Mer, like Comme des Garçons, like Yoji, like Hodakova, like a lot of the brands, like Camiel Fortgens, like I've added to my list, is because I resonate so much with this sort of deconstructed approach and my history with, you know, perfectionism. On to the next. Big tangent, but let's move on to the next brand. Next on the list is a designer named Kwame Adusei. He founded the brand in 2021 and he focuses on comfort, form, and fit with a deep respect for the human form. What's very interesting about his brand is that he seamlessly incorporates his Ghanaian roots with his lived experience in the US. What I really love about his clothes is that he really focuses on this element of draping, and it kind of gives this allowance of the materials and of the clothing to move naturally and sort of flow through your body. He really goes for a lot of these sexy and daring pieces, but he's also able to produce these sort of oversized, tailored, and more formal looks. I really love the oversized blazer. That's one of the main things that caught my eye. I love the tailoring on the blazer, and I just love the overall form. I love the strong shoulders there as well. And also this cap and jacket is one of the most interesting jackets that I've seen in a long time. So last but not least, we have a brand called Idol, or Ido, I think it is. And this brand mainly pulls their inspiration from the Japanese culture and lifestyle, which is kind of centered around the idea of acceptance of the natural transience of the human experience. A lot of the pieces we see have this utilitarian approach, so they can be styled and worn in different ways. It's another Japanese brand, and they offer a selection of menswear and womenswear pieces. The menswear offering is this sort of experimental approach that focuses on functionality and uniform, and they're really producing pieces that allow you to go about your everyday business while being comfortable and mobile. From what I read on the website, the brand is made to order, so each piece is produced on demand, which means you're likely getting some of the highest quality that you can get. And for this price, I think it's really reasonable. This really is a smaller to medium-sized brand that I found, and I would definitely recommend you to go check them out and maybe find some pieces that you like. So guys, that is it for today's video of the list of emerging and independent brands to keep an eye on for 2025. I hope that you guys enjoyed the selection of brands that I featured. Please go ahead and check these brands out on Instagram. You know, buy their products, support their businesses. And if you think that you know someone who may like some of the brands that I featured, go ahead and share this video with them as well so they can discover these brands. Also, no gatekeeping. If you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe for future videos. And I'll see you guys very soon. All the best.